IVM.
Ask any person in Mumbai where a good place is to try Parsi food. Most of them will tell you one of two things. The best Parsi food is had in a Parsi home or at a Parsi wedding. It's only at a Parsi wedding that you get to experience all our classic food all at once. From patrani machi to palau dar to sali boti to custard, you're going to get to eat all of it. In fact, most of us Bawas decide whether we should attend the wedding or not based on who the caterer is. And many, like my husband, won't even bother going if the couple decided to go with a buffet caterer. When it comes to catering, serving up food at Parsi weddings is a unique beast. Most caterers in this space cook all the food from scratch, live at the venue. 70% of the food is not cooked until an hour before the guests arrive. Due to the seasonal nature of Parsi weddings, on the surface, this business seems like a glamorous one. After all, you only work about 4 or 6 months of the year. But the ground reality is very different. Today on the show, we have Kaizad Patel of Kaizad Patel Caterers. Kaizad's family has been catering for Parsi weddings for over 80 years. He himself has been in the business for 13 of those years. On the show today, we dig deep into what it means to serve over 500 guests Parsi food day after day. We talk about why the menu at Parsi weddings never changes. And we also get into the battle of Patrani Machi versus Sasni Machi. This is Not Just Dhansak, and now let's chat with Kaizad Patel. So welcome Kaizad on Not Just Dhansak.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So let's get right into it. So can you, Kaizad, tell us a little bit about your professional background and training and how you ended up starting your catering thing about 13 years ago?
I think it was 1997 when I went to HAFT, that's a Fire Polytechnics college. I did a 2-year course out there. It was a diploma in hotel administration and food technology. And then my dad said, you have to learn about Parsi food, but not in your business. So he pushed me into RTI. That's where I went, and I was working there for 7 or 8 months, and I was like bored and fed up, and I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Okay.
And so I applied for a job at the Oberoi's, and I was taken into the banqueting kitchen. And banqueting's always been in my blood forever. So I took it up. It was an easy task for me. At first, of course, it was everything's tough in the beginning, but then it just gradually, it started growing on you, and I started enjoying it. And I found a wonderful chef who was mentoring me and taking care of, helping me out and teaching me stuff.
Yep.
So it was very exciting. And I think, it was 4 years that I was with the Oberoi's. And then I was like, as normal, I was like, okay, I'm done with this. I need to move on.
Yeah.
So I just did a catering course in the US. I did it from the Cordon Bleu in Scottsdale, Arizona. And again, after the course got over, they were like, where do you want to do an internship? And I was like, I have no clue. Always I'm like, okay, let's go with the flow. And so I took the internship book. And it's true, I just flipped the pages and I was like, whichever page it opens up on, I'm going there for an internship. And so there was the Ritz-Carlton Battery Park. And I was like, oh, that's a far-fetched shot. I was like, okay, whatever. Let's try for all the Ritz-Carltons. So she's like, you can try for 4 in every property, for every chain. And I was like, okay, let's try the San Francisco one. And as luck had it, I just landed up with an internship. I was like, the chef, when he took my interview, he's like, this is a non-paid internship. I'm like, yeah, cool, that's fine. I didn't know what I was heading into again. And 3 months down the line, they just absorbed me in the company. They offered me the job and they were like, you know what, we like your job work and just come join us.
Okay.
So I was there for 4.5 years. It was fun. It was different. But then I guess it was my calling to come back to India. So I'd come in for a family wedding, and when I saw like my family business was going down, and I was like, you know what, I need to move up and step in and take over the reins.
Yeah.
And I love challenges. So that's what.
Okay, so you didn't always know that you'd come back to Parsi food?
I never knew I was going to ever cook in my life. Okay. So when I graduated from Sophia Polytechnic, everyone was like applying for a job in someone's kitchen, someone's service. I'm like, I'm clueless. So I walked into the interview room and I'm like, what do I apply for? And they were like, you're for a chef. This is the chef's department thing. I was like, cool, let's apply for the kitchen. And when I walked out, my dad's like, what did you apply for? In the morning, you were clueless. I'm like, Dad, I applied for the kitchen. He was like, oh my God, you really...
So you had no idea what you were getting into?
No, it's like me. I go with the flow. I really would not think too much about it. I would rather just go with it. So it's fun. It's life.
So if you look back now, was that a good decision to apply for the chef's job back
So my thing is, whatever I get into, I would do it 100% wholeheartedly. So I was like, okay, now that I've got into the fire, it's better to prevent yourself from getting burnt.
Yeah.
So like just start learning. And so when I went for my internship, my trade test, I was again clueless. And they were like, oh, there was a German chef out there at the Oberoi, and he gave me a long list of stuff to make. And I was like fumbling, and I still remember that day when my mentor, Chef Rajesh, was there. And he was like, don't worry, man, Bawa. I was like, you're a Bawa? I said, yeah. He's like, cool. So we'll have a nice, fun time together. So he just helped me out, and he took me in, and that's when they started teaching. So it's a lesson that I learned that, you don't need to have the skill at first. You just need to have the right attitude.
Correct.
It's always the attitude that matters, not the aptitude. The aptitude comes in later on.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, same with myself. Like, I never actually thought I'd be running a catering business. I studied hospitality because, I don't know, there wasn't anything else that grabbed my fancy, and I studied it and got married, realized I didn't actually knew how to cook zero Parsi food. So, and I married like a ekdam Dhansak loving Parsi. So that's when I had to go with the flow and learn
marriage
everything.
made you smarter. That's what I would say.
All right. So let's take a step back. So what are your earliest memories around food? Like, do you have...
So when we were kids, it was my dad, actually my grandfather Navroji was a very renowned caterer. And so was my uncle Bami. But it was like when we were kids, after you come back from school and you had your grandmother just make you change and go to the wedding venue that was normally Kolaba or Bezba. You sit by the music stage, you listen to the same music every evening. You have your raspberries.
Yep.
You just boss around a little bit because you're the owner's kid. And then you're put to sleep out there. And then the night, next thing you know, you wake up, it's time for school. And it was every day that you sit and eat this food and day in and day out. So,
wow.
Yeah. 20 years ago, I could not fit in this chair. So, being honest.
Okay. So could you tell us a little bit about the family business? I mean, you touched upon it, but how did it start? What has the journey been like for your family?
So I think it was my grandfather. My grandmother was very enterprising. She was a woman who could never hear no for herself. She would always achieve boundaries which was set by herself, and they were always extended and beyond the horizon. And with her, it was always that, I think she got a break once. There was some family or friend who wanted a function done, and she said, sure, I'll do it. And my grandfather had no clue. And I still remember the stories when I was a kid, where they were like, I don't think we should do this. And my grandmother was like, don't worry, we'll do it. And I think it's like any other business, you take one step forward and then there's no stopping you sometimes. And that's how it took off. And she was very, very enterprising. So she was always a hands-on person. And she was a very pushy person. And so it's the way it...
I mean, if you want to grow a business, to be honest, I mean, I wouldn't say you have to be pushy. You don't have to, but you have to have sales. You have to know how to convince people, weave that story, right?
Absolutely. It was different 20 years ago, 40 years ago. It's different right now. So I don't think she could succeed right now, because with her, I think people have set boundaries and, they want the distance. Earlier, it was like the more you got involved with stuff, I think people loved you for that. Right. And that's where she would always be there.
Yeah. So you're the fourth generation in your business.
That's correct.
How is it inheriting a business? How is inheriting a business different from starting a new one? So, I mean, I'll give you a context. I mean, I started my catering company about 4 years ago. And, I often get compared to, it's tough because I'm learning from the start, and I often get compared to people like you and other more established caterers. And, I often envy that, okay, they already have a kitchen set up, or they already have all their staff are trained. So tell me, is the grass really greener on the other side, or does it just appear green?
To be very honest with you, actually, when I took over the business, it wasn't in such great shape. It's not like what functions we do now. We used to not even do a 10th of them when I took over in 2006. And it was always that, I don't know, it was somewhere that the legacy was going down. So people were like, they would always start comparing you to other caterers. And just what you're facing is what I faced 12 years ago, 13 years ago. And I always analyzed for myself and said to myself, I'm like, what is it that I need to establish and to create a niche for myself? And I was like, let people will always talk. People will talk good, people will talk bad. So let the bad is what I focused more on. Yeah. And I wanted to grow on based on that. And I always, like I said, failure is always a step towards success. And it's not that I've not had failures in my life. Everyone does. And it's always what you learn from it is what makes you go ahead. But comparing is always a trait that, I personally would always like to compare, not good and good. I would like to see, okay, what is my bad product and how can I make it better with someone else? I don't want to sit and compare good and good. I don't like compliments. I like people telling me straight up front, if you don't like something, this is what it needs to be done. Because, it's better that it's more time and energy taken to go get a customer, walk into your door, and to retain him is always easy. It's always a tough part.
Of course.
So, and what I'm seeing right now is a repeat business, because I have people who actually call me up and you do this stuff, and it's you do functions and you create memories. You create good ones, you create bad ones. So it's always that when you create the good ones, it's what people remember.
Yeah.
And the bad ones also they do.
Yeah.
I still have some people telling me stuff, and I'm like, what, the negative energy is what to just phase out.
And Parsis have very strong memories when it comes to food, right?
Food is the epicenter of a wedding.
Yeah.
They come into a wedding, of a venue, and they don't want to see how the bride and groom look or what the place looks like. They just want to look at who the caterer is.
Yeah.
And I have people actually walk up to me and we spend the whole evening, and I'm like, dude, you need to go and meet and they're like, oh yeah, we'll meet them on the way out. So that's what it is.
So can you tell me about maybe the very first wedding that you did when you took over the reins? Like, how was the experience? What was going through your mind? And now, if you were to do a function today, how is that different today?
So when I came in, actually, I was not in the business for 4 or 5 years. When I was in the US, I come down to do my cousin's wedding, and I was here for 6 days in India. And I still remember that it was very hectic. Things were going too fast for me. And compared to a professional kitchen setup, it's it wasn't in my control in a way. So when I came down and I took over the business, the first thing I did was get my back-end support ready. And that's the most important thing, I think, in any business. It's the pillars that lead you to build a better place. And if that's strong, nothing can break you down. So that's what I focus more on. It took me 3-4 years to focus and get my stuff in order. And then that's when I started taking plunges, and I'm like, okay, I'll do this function, I'll do that function, I'll do bigger, I'll do multiples.
Yeah.
So now it's come to, and secondly, you got to develop the trust of your employees that you are there for the long run.
Yep.
And you got to pay them well. So if you pay them well, I guess everyone sticks with you.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of employees who work for us who've been there before I was born also.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's literally generations, they work. And so that trust factor does come in a bit.
Yeah.
And it's more than trust, it's how you lead them. They want someone who can lead them and be hands-on. I could not be sitting on a desk, on a table and, just give orders around. Like people say, oh, wow, you got a lovely life. You get up at 9 o'clock, you count the money, go back to sleep. I'm like, walk my shoes for 24 hours, you'll come to know what life is.
Correct. So, so you obviously come a long way from the
very
first wedding that you did.
It's a 360-degree difference than what I had done in the first. But I still know the first host that I'd done the function for, and still we're in touch, and she's one of my favorite clients till date.
Great.
So,
of course, right? You always remember the very first person. In fact, I did a catering yesterday for someone, same thing. They were my very first clients, and you always want to go
there is more emotions than business in this.
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
So, Parsi weddings are a little bit of a different beast, right, to other Indian weddings. Most of the cooking is done last minute on site. Client is demanding, and most importantly, more than the clients, I would say the guests are very, very hungry. So what has been, maybe if you can share a couple of your favorite stories about crazy Parsi clients, because at least I have more than plenty to share. So could you share one?
So with Parsis, the thing is that the epicenter is food, right? You come into a wedding and they want to know who the caterer is. Then immediately the judgments are made in their mind that whether the food is going to be good or not. Then secondly, you got to overcome that with good service. And earlier it was food was just plonked on a banana leaf, and we traditionally eat on banana leaves. And gradually people started evolving into giving fancier stuff and all that. But I'm true to my tradition. I'm your appetizers could be whatever under the sun. You could serve sushi and momos for all I care. But your food should be pure, hardcore Parsi. That's what really makes it an experience.
Correct.
A lot of people who come in. A lot of caterers, they do a lot of different stuff. And you want the variety. But I've seen over time that, if you don't give them the palau dal or you don't give them the sasni machi, they are totally disheartened. Like 60% of the battle is won when you put a sasni machi in front of a client, literally.
So my husband, when we get the wedding invite, he'll ask me, like, is it buffet or is it patro? Because if it's buffet, then we're not even like going. The couple doesn't deserve like a peramni or anything like that because they decided to go with a buffet.
You said the right words. Peramni is what drives everything nowadays. So,
okay, well, so this is a good point for us to take a quick break, and so we'll just be right back.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another week on the IVM Podcast Network. As always, it's an awesome week. We'd like to thank our sponsors on the network this month as well, Savari, Storytel, and Paytm Money. Just a reminder, we're hiring some people. We're looking for producers, content creators, audio engineers, developers. Check out our careers page on our website. And if you're interested in working at the most awesome place in the world, please do send us your application. We have a few new shows launching. So the first new show we got launching is called Mr. and Mrs. Binge Watch. It's hosted by Janice Sequeira and Anirudh Goa. They're a TV-crazy, Netflix-loving, binge-watching couple who snort television for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They talk about the shows they binge on and a whole lot more. New episodes are out every Thursday on our network. Another new show we have is called Edges and Sledges. It's a cricket podcast where Varun, Ashwin, and DJ talk all about cricket. This week they have Tatenda Taibu, the former Zimbabwe captain, as their guest. It's the ICC World Cup season, so definitely check this one out. On Cyrus Says, Rohit P-Man Pereira and Kripa Goyal, hosts of the ATKT Talent Tent podcast, talk to Cyrus about tattoos, Catholic school plays, young adult fiction, and their new podcast. Also check out the Cock and Bull edition of Cyrus Says from last week, where Vivek Kaul joined Cyrus, me, and Abbas to make sense of the election results. On the Pragati podcast, Narayan Ramachandran, co-founder of the Takshashila Institute, joins Pawan to talk about the NDA's agenda for the next 5 years. On Croc Tales, Anand Sivakumaran narrates a tale on spicing things up between Rahul and Shreya. How can a couple spice it up? Find out with Chief Croc. On our Kannada podcast, Thalle Harate, Vijayendra Rao talks to Pawan Srinath and Ganesh Chakravarti about India's Gram Sabhas, one of India's biggest democratic successes since independence. On Simplified, Chuck and Naren go back in time and talk about moments when human activity influenced a change on the Earth's geology and ecosystems. On Equity Sahiye, brought to you by Motilal Oswal, Shrey Lunkar joins Anupam to discuss the Indian automobile sector. On Know Your Kanun, Amber Rana gets into the details of defamation and its exceptions under the law. On What a Player, Siddharth and Mikhail are previewing the ICC Cricket World Cup 2019 along with their predictions. And with that, let's go on with your show.
Welcome everyone back to Not Just Dhansak, and today we have on the show Kaizad Patel of Kaizad Patel Caterers, and we're talking all things Parsi wedding. So Kaizad, when I was doing research for our episode today, in your interviews you mentioned that cooking is an art. But, help me resolve this mystery. Why don't people want different things at Parsi weddings? It's always exactly the same menu. Like you said, you mentioned about that people will have different starters and momos or maybe sushi or whatever, if they're being a little adventurous, though I haven't personally seen any wedding where they've gone that adventurous yet. But why does the menu never change?
It's not that the menu never changes. It's that people have a mindset in their mind, and this is what gives them satisfaction. Today, you could eat a butter chicken anywhere you want.
Right.
It's the butter chicken that you eat is cooked in a Punjabi person's house versus a North Indian guy serving on a dhaba versus a 5-star restaurant. There's all butter. It's called butter chicken, but it's all different. The same way when you do masala dal, like people have this mindset that when you have non-Parsis coming in, like their friends and their families and stuff, they want to be served an authentic meal because that's what gives them happiness.
Correct.
Today, if you go into a South Indian wedding and if someone had to serve you Chinese, you'd be like, what sense does that make? Like, where did that come from? And the thing is, you have our system of serving on a banana leaf. You have very few courses or you have many courses. It depends on how you want to do it. But when you do with the few courses, that's what people come for. That is the epicenter is food, and they want the traditional food. It's something you don't get to eat in your house.
Right.
Is what we serve to you on a banana leaf.
Yeah.
And it's very seasonal again.
But it's always very surprising to me because, if you think about it, Patrani Machi and Sasni Machi are so easy to make at home as well. But no one ever makes it at home.
It's something that is synonymous with a wedding or an avjot. It's something when you go in, the first two things are, what fish is there? Is it patra or sauce? You don't go and ask, do you have anything else? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we have a menu with 8 fish items.
Okay.
And when a person sits, the first thing I'll ask them is, you got to decide the fish. I'll help you with the rest.
Yeah.
And I've seen over time, the more traditionally menus you give, the more people love it.
Yeah.
Even though there'll be literally there are days when you do sali chicken and sasni machi every day. And they love it. They still want to eat it.
Yeah.
Because they know that it's 4 months that they get it. The remaining 8 months, they're not going to get it.
And starve themselves.
Yeah, it's like in a wedding, that's how. And I personally think when you have a non-Parsi person coming in, they want to eat a patrani machi. They don't want to eat a butter chicken. It's something that you get anywhere.
Correct.
They don't want to eat a dal makhni. So when people do different stuff also, it backfires in a way. So we always emphasize on, if it's a buffet, yeah, you can go for different stuff. It's fine. People will forgive you then.
Yeah.
But if it's a patru, it has to be hardcore Parsi.
I remember. We recently had a family naujot in my house, and there was like long discussions about whether we would have patrani machi, sasni machi, because my brother-in-law wanted to go with the sas way, and my father-in-law was like, no one will like it. You have to do patrani machi, is the more traditional. And we actually had like, I think 3 or 4 dinners where everyone came together to discuss which fish we were going to have, which is,
That's one thing I will never let a client tell me to decide on. I'll be like, because I'm very biased, I'm a sasni machi person.
Okay.
Even though I don't eat the fish, I just love the sauce.
Yeah.
So I'll be like, you know what, I got to do this. But I'll be like, hands up. I'm like, you decide the fish, I'll help you with the rest. And of course, the staple has to be palau dal. So without that, so I still, it's not different. It's the way it has to be. Like traditions, that's when, when you start doing different stuff and then people forget traditions.
Yeah.
And then we wonder when the next generation asks, oh, what was it like? Why do we not see it? Well, we are the ones who discontinued it.
Correct.
So it's how it has to be looked upon.
Yeah. So we actually decided, none of us could decide, so we had both. So we had patrani machi and then we did, I think, like sasni prawns.
3 types of fish.
Wow.
Because there was the bride who wanted something else, the groom wanted something else, and the groom's father wanted something else. So they had 3 different types of fish.
Wow.
And one wanted
I want to be
different.
invited to that wedding.
There's a lot of... Parsi food is not just about 8 courses anymore.
Yeah. So then, since you said that so much of it is traditional, does the innovation for you happen more around the starters?
It's the appetizers always that take the front seat for me. Because that's where I can be creative. I change the menus every year. I try to put in new stuff. Even though the old favorite's always going to be the Russian patties or cheese corn balls. They'll never go out of style. I don't know. But it's something that I think that how much ever you try to do different, but you got to keep innovating and keep getting better at something.
Yeah.
Like sometimes, and we do a test run with certain people. We just put in an appetizer to see what the feedback is from the people without the host knowing. So, and then when you just see the consumption factor, and if it doesn't move, it's not going to be on the menu ever.
Okay.
So that's how we gauge and analyze for it. Like we have a chicken appetizer which sells more, which is consumed more than the prawns, and it's Parsis and prawns is like something that they would eat more of any day.
Yeah.
But imagine a chicken appetizer is eaten more.
Oh,
so
wow.
that's what I'm trying to say is that, and you got to do different, but not just change names. Like when I do it, I go hard. It's actually different from the rest. I don't believe in just fooling someone and taking your money. I think it's the wrong way of doing business.
So I get asked this by a lot of non-Parsi clients. What has Russian patties got to do with Parsi food? Like, I mean, is it really Russian? What exactly is
Parsi?
It?
What is Parsi food? Parsi food is a melange of all cuisines. When you come here, you have like your palau is actually a Muslim biryani cooked on dum, the traditional way. You have a dal, which is lentils and vegetables. That's a Gujarati style of preparing dal. Your sasni machi is a British influence.
Yeah.
Your patrani machi is South Indian influence. So Parsis, actually, we have adopted from all different cultures and we have created a niche amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
And this is more like a Muslim, like a Bhatiyar Khana thing. That's where it's picked up from. There's nothing, I don't know. There's nothing about it that if you trace back to origins, our food doesn't even match to what they eat back home.
Yeah. So, around 10 or 12 years ago, when you came into business, you heralded a revolution of, well-dressed service boys, fancier appetizers like you were talking about. So how important do you feel service is, in the food business?
It's a principle that I've had from the beginning. I will feed my customers the way I would like to eat. I would be fed the way I would like to see my service be fed.
Yep.
If I had someone doing something even if it's a gambar or even if it's a wedding at the Kolaba or the Turf Club, I don't think service should be compromised on any level because the person is paying and every customer has a right to eat well. I think it's just wrong when you differentiate based on a price of a pathru of how you should be served. I think that's absolutely wrong. And in fact, like when people say that I eat at a Kamabag and I eat at a Kolaba, and I've seen that this is the compliment that I get. I take it as a compliment that, I've never seen a difference in the service standard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why should it be any different? I don't understand that logic.
Yeah.
You charge a person not based on where the venue is. You charge, of course, you will charge more based on the number of dishes you have. But why should it differentiate, and why should anything else be different? I think it's wrong when people assume, and there was like when I started the business, I still remember I told my dad, just identify all the points that you think was needed improvement, and it was everything.
Yeah.
I don't think besides the locks on the door, everything else needed to be changed in the place. And I was like, wow, that's a good one to start with. But that's the way I always intended it to. I always feel that everything should have a little bit of style, and a little bit of you should be represented on the way it's served.
Yeah.
Like if I personally, like my servers and all, we take pride in that because we train them in a way.
Yep.
Like there was a mentality when you serve fish, you just say machi, 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 and I'm like, no, you gotta say what fish it is. And they're like, if they don't, this was the conversation they have, they know what fish they're eating. I'm like, well, then you don't need to work for me, because then they can come and serve themselves in the kitchen. Right. So, people have actually, and it's the mindsets that you got to change.
Yep.
And they're not literate, but they're very hardworking.
Yep.
So you got to justify in a way that makes sense to them too. So now it's like they from the kitchen, like from the time they walk out with the dish in their hand till they serve you, there are 4 people who will randomly ask them, what's the name of the chicken? What's the name of the mutton? Even a palau dal is what we make them say. Yeah. Because sometimes, and then they'll fumble, but that's forgiven,
Yeah.
But as long as they understand what they're serving.
Yeah. No, I definitely think there's been a huge revolution in terms of how, if I even go to a Parsi wedding now as compared to like maybe 15, 20 years ago when I was a kid, there's been a huge revolution in terms of the way the service is being done. And so it's really great to see.
Competition has got it to such a level that you got to differentiate yourself in a better position. The minute you stay stagnant and the minute you don't want to, you feel you're better than the rest is when your downfall starts.
Yeah.
And I've always said that you got to keep moving forward, even though you can never be the best at anything. Yeah. There's always room to be better. So I've always kept that in the back of my mind, and I've always had my learning curve go up. If it gets flat ever, I'm going to leave the business.
So there's this, enigma around the technical details involving catering for a Parsi function, because it's very different, right? Like the food is not prepared beforehand. It's actually prepared when the guests start coming. Could you share a little bit about how this whole works, how this whole catering works? When do you actually start preparing the food? How do you know how much to cook? Do you end up with lots of wastage or...
So the way I do my business is it's all based on numbers. I have a simple math that I follow, and then the rest I just go with the flow. And the way it works is that when you say that cook before, there are certain things that the cooking process starts in the morning. There are certain things that cooking starts in the evening. Like fish is one thing we emphasize on cooking at the last, because it's put on crushed ice till the last minute. And then, as you sit for dinner is when we start boiling the fish for your sasni machi.
Wow.
But the patrani machi, of course, you got to do it way in advance so it marinates, and then you let it cook. Because cooking patrani fish takes time. But again, it's not that we cook everything in bulk and we are just like, okay, you know what, now let's just keep it like that. It's cooked as it's required. So we know the number of rows. It's experience also.
Yep.
And we have a math again that works out. We have 400 people at the gate, and you have 200 people who can sit at one time. So you need to know how much you need to cook.
Right.
So that's how we work based on that. And we have a lot of people who work for us, and everyone's entrusted with the job. And at the end of it, everyone tells me exactly what's happening. So I don't need to be hands-on involved in it, but I know exactly what's going on in which part of the kitchen. Okay. So thing like a palau and a dal, you really can't cook it on the go. If anyone tells you that, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
But like a sauce is something made in, the more we make it in the morning, because as the flavors mature, that's when it tastes better.
Yeah. So, and most of the Parsi food, like cooking at a Parsi wedding, is done on wood fire, right?
Yes, that's the secret to good Parsi food.
Yeah. So what was your experience like shifting from, maybe working on big hobs on Ritz-Carlton and then coming back to wood fire? So
wood fire is a challenge by itself. You cannot ever say that, oh, you've mastered the art of cooking on wood. I still have cooks who are 3 generations down and who would still burn certain things. It's the wood control. The fire from the wood controls the person who cooks. So you got to work around it. And the way with it is like, it's not like a gas thing. You turn on the knob, turn off the knob, and you can control temperatures. It's very different. And the flavor is in the wood. So the type of wood that we use is also specific. It's what you get. I think the guy supplying wood to our family has been there for 3 generations or more. I don't know what.
Wow.
So it's worked on those. Like there are a lot of people who want to come and supply things to us, and we are like, no, you got to go with traditions, and that's how it's to be done. And that's how you get the flavor. And you don't mess with certain things.
Yeah.
But again, when you say wood is very important, we've done an event in Jaipur. And I told the host, I'm like, everything seems fine. You want a pass-through service, but we need to cook on wood. And he's like, at the Fairmont grounds, he's like, in the Fairmont Hotel, how do we do wood? I'm like, that's your problem. That's the event planning problem. So we actually had the garden, part of it uprooted, put tiles, and then we cooked on wood.
Wow.
And and even the executive chef at the Fairmont was like, I've seen everything in this hotel, but this is the first. I'm like, that's how we do it.
So, Parsi weddings and Navjots is essentially like a seasonal business, about 4 months of the year.
That's correct.
So, how do you structure your business around it?
I just work 4 months of the year.
Oh, wow.
And I travel the rest.
Oh, great.
So this is perfect for me. It's not that I need to focus on anything else. This business takes a lot out of you in the 4 months. It sounds very easy, 4 months of the year. But when you do a 6 o'clock in the morning to 2 in the night for 4 months, then I would like the remaining 2 months to be time off.
Yeah, fair enough. And it's not even, you're not doing this at one venue, right?
No, we
most
do
often
multiples.
of the nights, it's multiples.
Yeah, so when it's November and through January, you have 2 functions. Sometimes it's 2 for lunch, 2 for dinner and stuff. And it's not easy. It just sounds very easy, and it's like if you want to get it right, it's not easy. But if you just want to do it in a haphazard way, you can get anything done.
So I read in one of your interviews that you are actually vegetarian.
I am a vegetarian.
How do you deal with managing a very large non-vegetarian business in that case? Do you do all the tasting yourself? So
the way tasting in my kitchen works is that you have the chefs who taste, then you have a person designated who's going to taste, then you have my brother-in-law who's joined us in the business, he tastes, and then if 3 of them find something haphazard, then it comes to me and then I set it right.
Okay.
But invariably it gets sorted out in the first 3 because they know exactly what they're heading into then. Because if I do the cooking and tasting, then it's bad for everyone.
So, Parsis are all about the tradition. So, let's just talk a little bit about your family as we wrap up. Was there a set Sunday meal that you had at your house, or?
I know the Sunday breakfast used to be bumla and rotli and.
Oh wow, bumla for breakfast every Sunday.
Yep, that used to be. We had the guy frying from I think 9 to 11 in the morning, and it would be by the dozens he keeps frying.
Oh wow!
And that was our breakfast with hot chapatis and freshly squeezed lime.
Yeah.
But so my favorite is the masala dal and sali. That's what
masala dal with sali.
Yeah, that's my. It's weird, but that's what I love to eat.
I actually have one client who always does that. He always orders mutton Dhansak and then he orders a packet of sali to go with it.
That's the way it is to be eaten.
So just to wrap up, there's a lot of talk today around how Parsis are like an endangered breed. We're often compared to the tigers. So do you feel that Parsi food is really close to extinction? Or, what are your thoughts around this?
I think good Parsi food is difficult to get.
Yeah.
What people interpret and call it Parsi food is what others think. It's become a norm that, this is Parsi food, it's boring, it's not. But to get the real flavor and the real taste of Parsi food, you have to eat it in the right place at the right time. Yeah. That's why anyone will never ever miss out on a Parsi wedding or a Navjot if they're ever given an invite to, because it's the food that draws them in.
Yeah.
It's not. Friends are always there, but the Parsi food is God knows when.
Yeah. So one of the last questions I always ask everyone who comes on the show. So is Dhansak, you did mention masala dar, but is Dhansak really your favorite dish? And if you had to have one last Parsi dish before you died, what would it be?
One last Parsi dish? I would eat sauce and masala dal together.
Sauce?
That's the way I love to eat it too.
Oh wow.
It's all these weird combinations that I work with, and it's as a chef also that plays up, you start working with flavors and you try to understand what goes with what. But actually when I had certain clients on the path through, I'm like, you got to try this and this. And they're like, we never thought of it that way. But then, at certain times it does pay off.
Yeah.
If you're open-minded, then it's fine.
Now, I'm definitely going to buy a packet of sali and try it out on my Dhansak this Sunday. So
you'll enjoy it better than the kachupar.
So thank you so much, Kaizad, for coming on Not Just Dhansak today. I had a lovely time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
नमस्ते, मैं हूँ सौरभ चंद्रा
और मैं प्रणय कोटस्थाने।
जब महफिल खत्म होते होते दरवाजे के बाहर पुलिया के ऊपर हम दुनिया भर की जटिल समस्याओं को सॉल्व करने में लग जाते हैं तो हो जाती है पुलियाबाजी।
अब आजकल के अपार्टमेंट वालों ने तो कभी पुलिया देखी नहीं होगी, पर आप फीलिंग तो समझ ही सकते हैं।
तो आइए शामिल हो जाइए हमारी पुलियाबाजी में। जहां प्रणय और मैं एक से एक इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक्स की तह तक जाएंगे।
आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, बिटकॉइन, पाकिस्तान, मेडिकल एजुकेशन, करेंसी क्राइसिस, कभी हम दोनों के साथ और अक्सर स्पेशल एक्सपर्ट गेस्ट की कंपनी में।
सुनिए हमें IVM की वेबसाइट, ऐप या अपने फेवरेट पॉडकास्टिंग प्लेटफॉर्म पर हर दूसरे हफ्ते।
Hi, I'm Anupam Gupta, B50 on Twitter, and listen into the Equity Sahiya podcast brought to you by Motilal Oswal Asset Management Company. The Equity Sahiya podcast offers deep investment insights into the potential of many sectors in India which are growing and have a lot to offer for your portfolio. New episodes out every Tuesday on the IVM Podcast app or any other app where you get your podcasts from.